In building organizational capacity, I've discussed the importance of alignment and execution. Alignment and execution answers the question how. Alignment and execution answers the question how. There's another perspective that needs to be pursued in your quest for effective leadership, and it has to do with the business. This was the third element that I mentioned early on when we looked at technical expertise, relationship management, and business savvy. Being strategic doesn't necessarily mean that you understand the business's strategy. Being strategic says, I understand what the bigger picture is. And why that's so important today really has to do with setting priorities and moving forward. The strategic perspective asks the question, why? Why are we doing this? And for many people, they may say, well, that's just being contrarian. You're looking for a way not to do something. And I say it's just the opposite. And this is not simply the responsibility of senior leadership. I think it's the responsibility of all leadership. A strategic perspective looks at the bigger picture. And as a functional unit inside the business, the goal is to become a partner and strategist to the business. So what that means is it's not about you and what you do. It's how you now provide and add that value to the overall business. Much like credibility was learning about people, a strategic perspective is about learning the business. And this has become more important as the world is changing so rapidly and so many changes are taking place inside organizations to understand what the bigger picture looks like. Now, if you were someone that were deep inside the organization, you may say, well, I don't really see how the strategy is manifest. And that's why I think it's important to consider what it means to be a partner and strategist to the business. To what extent can we now create what I see as horizontal alignment across organizations as opposed to what we've often referred to as functional silos? Working as a partner in the and strategist to the business really requires a skill set that is much talked about and I think not as well understood, and that is about creating a dialogue about the business. So if I am human resources, for example, and I say I want to be a partner and strategist to the business, it's not a substitution for being a collaborator. It's not a substitution for being cooperative. It says I am invested in what the business does. I say it's the triple win. We look at collaboration and say, I get something for it, and the person or group with whom I'm working gets something for it. But working as a partner says we are both working to the same end. If the customer that we both service doesn't get what they need, then we have to share in that responsibility of either the success or failure of what's been done. It is a different way of doing business. I think working and thinking strategically gives us another kind of intelligence to consider. I mentioned native intelligence, IQ, if you will, emotional intelligence, which is understanding people, understanding yourself and your impact on others, understanding what's important to other people. But this is a different kind of intelligence. This savvy becomes based on your knowledge and experience around the business. So if we follow this path, this journey of moving from technical expert into leadership positions, or as you rise in your career, whether you manage people officially or not, the value that you bring isn't just what you know, it's what you know in the context of the business. And it's that advice and that direction that becomes so critical. HR people know this. Anyone in a corporate staff position understands such as finance and accounting, understands that what they're looking to do is to make sure that the business can succeed and provide that guidance and direction. I can tell you, I don't think that strategic thinking is well understood, and I don't think there's any guarantee that people that are more senior in an organization are the ones that are entrusted with thinking strategically. I think, much like I've said, leadership needs to exist across many, if not all, jobs. I think strategic thinking is something that needs to be used more in challenging people to understand what we have to be thinking about, not only about today, but really what equates to business survival in the future. It doesn't happen because people have their heads down. It happens because people are looking out, ultimately to customers, to the competition, to the economic landscape. Important to understand what dialogue actually consists of. There are three major parts that will sound similar to active listening, but I think it's taken to a higher level. One is the ability to ask good, open-ended questions, particularly in understanding how and why. Why is a little funky when you ask because it sounds accusatory, but there are ways of asking why that really gets below the surface in meaning of what someone requires or why a particular direction is taken. The second element has to do with asking probing questions. And to me, this is the art form. It's not understanding just what someone has said, but trying to dig deeper, to go below the surface. When someone tells you that this is going to be an important trend in the future, you can ask them to tell you more about that. What makes them think that way? What resources or knowledge do they have? The third element is about listening and being able to understand what someone has said. The purpose of dialogue is to further understanding among all people in these conversations. It's not necessarily looking for solutions. This is not the post-mortem that you would conduct on a project, good or bad. This is really furthering the need to find out what's important to the people around you so that the business can move forward in a productive way. It requires asking open-ended questions, being able to probe, and being able to listen.